News Talk 96.5 KPEL. This is Acadiana's Morning News. I'm Brandon Comeaux, and on the phone line, I have a Hall of Fame inductee, and it's only appropriate that she's doing some grocery shopping right now. The Lafayette Food Junkie, Tiffiany Decou, joining me. Good morning, Tiffiany.
Morning, Brandon.
All right, so you are a Hall of Fame inductee, the Taste Awards. Now, we've been talking about the Tasties for the past 3 years because the Lafayette Food Junkie Show, which you can hear right here on News Talk 96.5 KPEL, 6 to 7 p.m. on Sunday nights. The show has been up for various Tasty Awards over the past 3 years, and so now they want to go ahead and put the show into the Hall of Fame.
I know. I'm kind of shocked. I had to do research too because I remember I told you, and I was like, wait, let me make sure this is real, because I found out via Facebook. But that's how they are. They normally don't send you like congratulation emails. They'll just send you emails that say, with things that are happening, and that's how you find out if you're nominated for the awards or whatever. And so I was just happened to be scrolling through Facebook Sunday night before I went to bed, and I saw the thing about the Hall of Fame, and then I saw that the Lafayette Food Junkie Facebook page was tagged in it.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, what? What is this? Is this real? Is this really happening?
It's kind of like when you found out that the show was nominated for its first Tasty Award. I was like, wait, what?
Exactly. I know, it was our first year on the air, and I was like, wait, is this real? So I had to email them the next day and be like, can I please get some more information about this? And they emailed me back, and they were like, congratulations. And, they sent me a little more information on being in the Hall of Fame.
Now, for those that don't know about the Taste Awards and who they're all associated with, there are some really big names that you've been competing against over the past few years and that you're going to be inducted with into the fourth Taste Hall of Fame.
Right. The Taste Awards are basically the best of food, fashion, and lifestyle brands. And so it's a great mix of popular, anything from like Top Chef to America's Test Kitchen and YouTube stars. Like it's a great mix of people that are kind of making an impact in the lifestyle industry.
Right. Now, I mean, again, huge names that are a part of this. And when I think about this, Tiffiany, we're speaking to the Lafayette Food Junkie, Tiffiany Decou. When I think about where the show started, and in 4 years, I mean, again, it was really amazing. I was blown away too. After the very first year, getting nominated for a Tasty Award, then it happening again for 2 more years, and then now the show is really being recognized in a Hall of Fame status. I mean, again, when I think about where the show started just 4 years ago, and I think about the planning stages, and I think about having those conversations with you about the show, whether it was through calling or text, just saying, hey, are you still thinking about doing the show? And yeah, this is what I would want to do. And we set everything up over here with the bosses, and we get you trained and all of that. It's really amazing how far the show's come along.
I know. It's amazing, and I love to tell the story of how it all came about you and I texting back and forth while you were traveling back from New Orleans.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that you were listening to the radio, and it was a food radio show out of New Orleans, and you were thinking to yourself, man, Lafayette needs something like that.
Yeah,
and then me responding, hey, I want to do this show about food for Acadiana.
Well, and I have to be honest, because at that time was when it was really exploding to where Lafayette was being named, to all of these different lists for our great food. And I remember meeting you and doing an interview with you for one of our afternoon shows at the time, and thinking, okay, this can be something successful in the future. And so again, it just kind of came about, and you had that desire to get into it, and we get such great response from the show itself. And again, this is a huge honor, but it also goes, again, to the culture that we have here in the Lafayette and the Acadiana area. It just gives you such great material to talk about.
I do. I mean, we have so much going on here. We have so many great chefs. We have such a rich food history here. it makes perfect sense that the rest of the world is trying, to see what we're doing and wanting to get more information on it. So it makes perfect sense. And I mean, food is such a part of the culture here. It makes total sense that we have a radio show about food.
Well, and Tiffiany, you just mentioned the chefs, and we would be remiss not to go without putting a spotlight on them, because I can remember, the conversations early on. Well, hey, it's a Sunday. Are we going to be able to get some chefs to come in here and talk? And it hasn't just been chefs; it's been people from different levels in the food industry. But the willingness that the people here, chefs, others in the food industry, the willingness for them to be able to, take some time out of their schedule and jump on the radio with you, I'm sure that's been rewarding as well.
Right. I mean, we've had call-in guests. We have a lot of chefs from New Orleans. I mean, Boudin Bourbon and Beer was probably one of the highlights for me last year when, people with that organization came on the show to promote it. We've had chefs that have worked for very high-level chefs and very well-known restaurants and other areas that have done call-in shows. And I think our farthest away call-in guest was from, it was a pepper company out of Hawaii, I believe.
Yes.
So, I mean, we're getting call-in guests from all over the United States.
Mm-hmm. Now, I mentioned the Taste Awards. When are the nominations going to be coming out for the Taste Awards?
They usually come out the first week of November, because it always happens to coincide when Boudin Bourbon and Beer is happening in New Orleans, and it's always like an extra celebration for me when I go to that event. So usually that week is when the nominations come out. That's when you'll find out if you're nominated. And I want to say at the end of December, maybe even the beginning of December, I'm not exactly sure, is when you find out if you won or not.
And what was it like? Because you actually got to travel to L.A. a couple of years ago for it, yeah.
Yeah, so the first year we were nominated, one of the categories was a People's Choice, where people could vote actually on the winner. And that particular category, you didn't find out who the winner was until you went to the event. So I went the first year we were nominated to the award ceremony in L.A., and it was a complete, utter joy and experience to go there and experience that. Yeah.
Tiffiany Decou, the Lafayette Food Junkie, is joining us. And again, want to remind you, her show is from Sunday nights here on KPEL, 6 to 7 p.m. Now, I want to preview this upcoming show on Sunday, but first I want to take a look back at the one right before it, as a matter of fact, last Sunday. And we have that show up on our website, kpel965.com. And I want to bring it up because while there's been many great shows, for the Lafayette Food Junkie radio show, this one was special to you because, you were going back home. And I knew that you were originally from North Louisiana, but didn't know exactly where you were from. And so, tell us a little bit about, I guess, going back home and, some of the unique food that they have there. And it's a part of what makes Louisiana, not just here in Lafayette and Acadiana, but all of Louisiana has its own unique food in each of its different areas.
Right. So I'm originally from Minden, Louisiana, which is about 30 minutes from the Shreveport-Bossier area. And I was fortunate to get invited to tour the Shreveport-Bossier area with 8 other journalists from around the United States, and some of the people that were with me write for Eater New Orleans, Food Republic, and Zagat. So that's the kind of level of journalists that came on this tour with me. And I got really emotional at several points during the tour because it was so reminiscent of my grandmother's. We had biscuits and gravy at Strawn, which is known for their strawberry pie. And the biscuits and gravy tasted exactly like my great-grandmother's. And so I started to cry. And then we went into the home of Chef Hardette Harris, who created the official meal of North Louisiana. And so in Lafayette and Acadiana, it's all about the gumbo. And in North Louisiana, it's all about the fried catfish. It's really like Southern soul food. Like that's what barbecue and, food like that. So she served us that day fried catfish and collard greens and hot water cornbread. And she's actually from Minden, too.
Okay.
And it's funny because growing up, every time we would go to visit my grandmother, we would have fried catfish. And I cannot stand fried catfish. I got so sick of it. I didn't want it anymore for the rest of my life. I have such an aversion to fried fish because of the amount that we had it. Like, it's fish fries. Instead of crawfish boils, you have fish fries.
Right.
Well, lately I've been craving it, and I had hers, and I started crying. Like, I started tearing up. And then when I bit into her smothered greens, and they tasted exactly like my grandmother's greens, like, I just knew. And I was like, this is what I'm trying. Like, this is what I try to tell people about what it is to eat up here. It's like Louisiana isn't just Cajun food. We have Cajun food, we have soul food, we have Southern food, we have Creole food, you know, and with the different cultures that are coming in too. We have, you know, Chinese, Mexican, Vietnamese, Japanese, like all these different cultures are coming into it. And with that, all these chefs are then being inspired and creating new dishes from that. So it was great. It was a really emotional experience. I felt like the other journalists were laughing at me because I kept crying. I would tear up over the food, and I was just like, it totally brought me back to my childhood and just reminded me of my grandmother.
Okay, so before we move on to previewing your upcoming show, I have to ask Tiffiany, what is the difference? Because look, I can't think of having fried catfish in North Louisiana. I can only remember having fried catfish here in Acadiana. Is there any really noticeable differences to it?
Okay, so I was actually talking to Chef Hardette Harris about this, and I feel like the fish that I get in Lafayette is real thin and crispy, and I like mine, and up there, they'll have it more as fillets and chunks.
Okay.
But it still has like a hard batter cornmeal crust on it. But I mean, it's real subtle differences. But I will say, like, I do prefer fried fish in North Louisiana as opposed to down here.
I heard some hesitation in your voice to go ahead and admit that it's okay. There's, as you know, there are so many foods down here that are made that nobody else can duplicate.
Well, I wouldn't eat gumbo in North Louisiana per se, but I would totally eat all the gumbo in Acadiana.
I do have to say, my mother-in-law makes a fantastic gumbo, and my mother-in-law, they're from the Sicily Island area. Which is out by the border, by the Mississippi border up in northern Louisiana. Okay. And so she actually, now when I was told that she did chicken and sausage and shrimp to all in one, I said, no, you have to separate those. Of course, I didn't tell that to her. But then when I actually tried it, it was good. And you know what? It was all in the roux. And it was phenomenal. So
I love these different varieties of gumbo that we have all over the state. Like, it's so fascinating. Like, I blew some people's mind away by telling them that a lot of times in Acadiana they'll put eggs in the gumbo, and they were just blown away by that. And I love it. I love that there's just these different versions of one dish all over the all over the Louisiana.
Right. So, all right, Tiffiany, we need to look ahead to the show on Sunday. What you have going on?
Okay, so I have to finish up talking about my Shreveport trip by mentioning Lucky Palace. And Lucky Palace is this restaurant that is in Bossier City, but really it's in an alternate universe. And I just needed to give it some extra time and love on this week's show. I feel like I know what it's like to dine out as Anthony Bourdain after my experience that I had at Lucky Palace. So we'll be talking about that. And then Jaquay Johnson, who is my favorite server, and she works at LaFonda's. She's coming on the show. She guest co-hosts with me every now and then, and she's going to come on and we'll talk about different food topics.
Very cool. All right. So you can listen to the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on Sunday nights from 6 to 7 p.m. here on News Talk 96.5 KPEL. Again, the Hall of Fame inductee, Tiffiany Decou, joining us on the show. Tiffiany, congratulations on the honor, and looking forward to the show on Sunday night.
Thank you, and I hope you're listening.